Hi friends, this is me Dr. Jagdish Jagtap, and in today's podcast we'll discuss the Panchayati Raj in India. Well, it is a system of rural self-government and it has been mandated by the 73rd Constitutional Amendment of 1992. And we have to remember that local government is a state subject. So in many of the laws, the central government cannot dictate terms. It has to just enact a model act and the state government will follow. Now, this might look a little bit boring, but it is very important. We have 4 committees on Panchayati Raj which have recommended certain things time and again, and certain things have been implemented from these recommendations. So the chronology of these committees is important. We can remember by a small mnemonic, that is BAGS. BAGS. B stands for Balwant Mehta Committee. A stands for Ashok Mehta Committee. GVK Rao has G over here, and S stands for Singhvi Committee. So this is the chronology of these committees. We can remember the years 57, 77, 85, 86. Now in each committee we have to remember a few things, like the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee recommended a 3-tier structure. We can remember this by understanding that Balwant Rai Mehta has 3 words, 1, 2, 3. So there is a 3-tier structure. Ashok Mehta has 2 words, so 2-tier structure. And then we have to remember a few salient points here. In Balwant Rai Mehta, he advocated direct elections for the Panchayat, that is 1, and indirect elections for 2 and 3, that is Block Panchayat, that is Panchayat Samiti, and Jilla Parishad. Then he said that district collector should be the chairman of ZP. And accordingly, Rajasthan was the first state in India to establish Panchayati Raj. That was in 1959. Second was Andhra Pradesh. Then the second committee was Ashok Mehta Committee. It recommended a 2-tier structure, that we will have a Mandal Panchayat in a few villages and then the ZP above it. His salient recommendation is that a minister of Panchayati Raj should be there in the State Council of Ministers. And he advocated seats for SCs and STs according to the percentage of their population. We also have recommendations of Nyay Panchayats and social audit. Coming to the GVK Rao committee, it doesn't have many recommendations, but we can focus upon a few, that a pivotal role should be given to the ZP, and he recommended the appointment of a district development commissioner who should act as a CEO of the ZP. Finally, coming to the LM Singhvi committee, it recommended constitutional recognition of the Panchayati Raj. It is by the recommendations of this committee that the Panchayati Raj chapter was included into the constitution. And he advocated more financial resources to the village panchayats. And the importance of Gram Sabha was stressed by LM Singhvi. That is why Gram Sabha also finds a mention in the constitution amendment. Moving on, let us see the 73rd Constitutional Amendment in a detail. First, it was passed by the Narasimha Rao government. It added Part 9, Schedule 11, and it is contained in Articles 243 to 243O. This amendment gives form to the Directive Principle 40, which was there in the Directive Principles of State Policy, and the gist of the article was that the central government should encourage organization of panchayats and devolution of powers to the panchayats. And this amendment gives constitutional status to Panchayati Raj institutions. Well, this has 2 provisions. Some are compulsory and some are voluntary. We'll deal with them in the subsequent slides. What are the salient features of this amendment? First, that it stresses upon the Gram Sabha. All registered voters in that panchayat area will be part of that Gram Sabha. like no other qualification is required. Secondly, a three-tier system is advocated in every state. The various committees have recommended three-tier, two-tier, but the constitution mandates that every state should have a three-tier system, with the small exception of some states which have population less than 20 lakhs. They can decide their intermediate level. Election of members should be direct election, but the chairman should be elected indirectly. And the election of the sarpanch, that is of the village panchayat, the state legislature has the power to decide how the sarpanch will be elected. Some states have a direct election, some states have indirect election. Then for the reservation of seats for SCs and STs, it will be as per the population in the area, and the office of chairperson will be reserved for SCs and STs as per state laws, and 1/3 of our seats for women and 1/3 chairman seats for men will be reserved. And then the duration of the Panchayati Raj institution government, like whatever comes to power, will be for 5 years, and then the elections will be held. If it is dissolved before 5 years, then within 6 months new election should be held. Then what are the disqualifications? Well, they'll be determined by the state laws, but they will never be on the grounds that the person is less than 25 years old if he has attained age 21 years of age. Then there will be a finance commission which will be appointed by the governor every 5 years. And here there is a small caveat: the Central Finance Commission shall also be able to give some measures to augment the consolidated fund of the state to supplement the resources of the panchayats. We have to keep this in mind. Then there will be a state election commission to conduct the elections of the Panchayati Raj institutions. It will be appointed by the governor. The conditions of service and tenure will be decided by the governor, but the removal will be like the High Court judge, and that is by the president. Now, how to apply this amendment to the UTs, that is Union Territories, that will be decided by the president. The audit of the accounts of these institutions will be done by the provisions as per decided by the state legislature. Well, there are few states which are exempted from this amendment, that is the Jammu and Kashmir, Nagaland, Mizoram and Meghalaya. These 4 states are exempted in toto. And then there are some areas which are exempted. These are the scheduled areas and tribal areas of states, hills of Manipur and Darjeeling. Now for these exempted areas, we have something called as the PISA Act, that is Panchayati Raj Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996. Now this is a really awesome piece of legislation because this has given these scheduled areas and tribal areas their own panchayats, and they have done some really good work. Now the courts are barred from entering into this Panchayati Raj institutions, like for example delimitations disputes cannot be taken to the courts, then electoral disputes cannot be taken to the courts. So these have to be dealt by the appointed authorities only. And then this 11th schedule has been added, which has 29 items. These include things from agriculture, animal husbandry, social justice, etc. Like there are 29 items in total. Then there are 2 types of provisions as we discussed earlier. Some are voluntary for the state governments and some are compulsory. Now the salient features which we dealt with, they come under the compulsory ones, and the voluntary ones are that the state government can decide whether the MPs and MLAs should be allowed a role in the Panchayat Raj institutions, and whether it should be advisory or they be given some powers, etc. And how about backward class reservations other than those for SC and STs? SC and ST will come in compulsory, but other backward classes which reserve reservations, that will be coming under the voluntary provisions. Then what more powers to give to the Panchayat Raj institutions, that will come under the voluntaries. And then what taxation powers should be allowed to the Panchayat Raj institutions, that too will be a voluntary provision. Thank you. I hope this podcast will be helpful. If you have any doubts, please write it in the comments below. I'll try to solve it as soon as possible within 12 hours. There's some information about me. Thank you.